A seatbelt can stop you from going into a store. A seatbelt can stop you from climbing a tree. It can stop you from flying or from rolling down a hill. A seatbelt can stop you from doing a lot of things, like crushing bones and damaging vital organs. It can even save your life. That's why we enforce seatbelt laws, to save lives. So buckle up every trip, every time. Click it or ticket. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Raw Recap Show, brought to you by the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network with your hosts, Nick McDaniel and Myron Fancher. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nick, but I am not joined by Myron tonight. I'm joined by my buddy Nathan. How's it going, buddy?
Tapped Out Nation, what is going on, Nick? What is the haps on the graps?
A weird episode of Raw tonight. But before we start, I promised everybody this on Twitter. So we're gonna lead off with this so I don't forget it, and it's a super big deal. Well, guys, the giveaway's finally here. The Fight app has given us some credits, so you can watch Ring of Honor pay-per-views, Impact pay-per-views, all the good, all the pay-per-views that they host on the service. We're going to be giving away 5 consecutive weeks. We're going to be giving away $25. So you're going to have $25 on the Fight app credits. Pretty nifty, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's we're completely thrilled that they're helping us out here with this, and we want to be able to kind of enlighten people onto the Fight app, especially our buddies over at Rocky Mountain Pro, Rockstar Pro, the other promotions on there as well, Throwback Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, et cetera, et cetera. Tons of them on there, ICW, and of course, like I said, the Impact pay-per-views, the Ring of Honor pay-per-views are on there as well. But man, the way we said this contest was going to work is we had a interview last Friday. We interviewed Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling's owner, Matthew Yaden, and basically the trivia question is going to come out of that show. So if you listen to the show, the answer is going to be pretty simple. So we're going to ask the question here shortly, and you're going to be able to email us the answer at tappedoutwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. That is tappedoutwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can DM us, and that's what I said, DM us on @tappedOutPod. That is @tappedOutPod. And you can send the answer there. Everything will be time-stamped, so it won't be a big deal. I'll have it definitively who's the first one to get me the answer, and then we'll get back with you. A couple of rules that you kind of have to know about the contest. You do have to go on and click the link. We have it on our Facebook page. We have it on our Twitter accounts, on our website at tappedOutWrestlingPodcast.com. Download the app. The reason why it's so important you have the app is because the credits are going to be given to they're going to basically use your email address that you registered for. And that's how they're going to know which account to credit those two. Those credits will go on that account. So first and foremost, you have to have the app. So we always say use our link, download the app, and then, of course, memorize which email that you use because I'll need that from you when you win, first and foremost. So that way we can have a place to send those credits. Now, second part of how you win, remember, like I said, email or DM us at tappedOutPod or tappedOutWrestlingPodcast@gmail.com. The answer to the question that I'm about to ask. In Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, there's something very different about their countouts in their matches. What's the difference in their countouts in Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling? So again, the first one who sends me the answer at TappedOutPod as a DM on Twitter or tappedOutWrestlingPodcast@gmail.com will win $25 in credits to the Fight app. Again, we want to thank the Fight app for the credits. And this week specifically, we also want to thank Rocky Mountain Pro's Matthew Yaden. That's where the answer came from on his interview on Friday. So that's where we're going to start. So we're going to start looking. I've got my emails and, Twitter's all linked to my phone, so I'll have immediately when I get the answer. So we will get in touch with you as soon as we know who won. So now that big piece of business is taken care of, where do we start on Raw, Nathan?
Oh, God. Started with a Braun Roman Reigns segment, kind of a taped deal about their various fights and feuds and, chair shot after chair shot from Roman to Braun. It's really interesting that the chair shot to the back of Braun's head did not injure him, but the one to his elbow did. That's kind of how they started it out. And then they're really building up this intercontinental feud between Miz and Uncle Dean Ambrose. I guess that was their biggest thing tonight. And they said they had two main events, right? Was that one of the main events?
That wasn't considered one of the main events. They tried to play off that Reigns, Balor, and Rollins Wyatt were the two main events. So let me get this straight. You don't consider your Intercontinental Championship one of your main events.
I guess they didn't. I guess not. Because they're setting up for the Universal Championship, number one contendership.
Which, let me ask you a question, because this is probably going to be a show where I'm going to have a real hard time focusing, because it felt like the writers did. I'm probably going to be all over the board going from one thing to another. And the question I wanted to lead off with was this fatal five-way at Extreme Rules. If those five guys are in the main event, who the hell's on the undercard?
Well, I think you're going to have tag team, of course. You're going to have probably Dean Ambrose and The Miz again with some sort of stipulation. You're going to have Alexa and Bayley. You may have Sasha and Alicia Fox. And then I think that may do it. I'm not quite sure, because that's a stacked main event, a fatal five-way with Seth, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, and Roman Reigns. My God, like that undercard of that show. That's what they need to start building. Like every Raw until that pay-per-view, that needs to be all about that undercard, because they don't need to sell me or anyone else really on that main event. They just need to work on putting pieces around it to make it so that we don't basically just make sandwiches until that main event.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here with you thinking, let's see. Like you said, the undercard, we're looking at tag team, women's title. I'm guessing we're going to get, like I said, we know we're getting Dean, Miz. Oh, they said we're getting a cruiserweight match. So that's 4. That'll give us 5. And then they'll probably throw us something else in there, which we'll get to. I'm sure we'll figure it out as we kind of hash the card out as a whole. So let's, as I'll come backpedal back in, because I always do that. What did you think? Because we kind of talked a little bit off air, but I want you to kind of be able to air your grievances here on that Intercontinental title match between Miz and Dean.
Oh, God. Well, the match itself, I thought, was very good. Dean actually looked kind of unhinged. He looked intense. He wasn't making the funny faces. He was kind of making the intense faces. He was showing it. I thought that they had good pace to it, and they worked outside the ring enough. Dean did his wacky rope rebound dealie. He did a dive like Randy Orton loves, and then it had great momentum, and then at the end it just kind of shit itself. We had Miz trying to win with shenanigans, which makes sense, and then you had Dean basically do the same heel shenanigans to the heel to retain with a DQ win. So all of that great match then ended in that fashion, with the good guy, the quote-unquote good guy, stealing some tactics from the bad guy to then low-blow the bad guy to retain the championship. So that made Dean look weak, made him look like he couldn't win cleanly against Miz. It made him look like a bad guy, which Miz is supposed to be the bad guy. And then the camera ended, the match ended with the camera on Dean when he's like throwing up like his index finger and his thumb really close together, like, I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like a great match that they booked that I don't know why the hell they did it like that at the end. That didn't make sense to me at all. Because then you have him retained through a shitty way to win. But is that really how you want your good guy Intercontinental Championship champion to look? It was the shits.
And the execution was poor because, as I pointed out, he literally looked like he looked down between his legs and reached down to grab his arm. Yeah. I was like, it was a bad idea and executed poorly. So that was kind of my knock on that whole match. I mean, I'm sure it's, hey, let's just figure out a way to get them out of the, finish so we can get them to Extreme Rules. And that's kind of what they went with. And that's where we are, I guess, at this point. And it is what it is. I guess we've come to expect so much more out of The Miz. But I have not come to expect much more out of Dean Ambrose over the last couple of years. I'm probably in the minority, and I know I catch a lot of grief for it. He just doesn't do it for me. So I guess I just expect more out of The Miz.
Well, can't they do something less, like a little less lazy to set up Extreme Rules stipulations than it's a DQ finish? They did this last year too. It's like that match was really good. Dean had a great swing and neck breaker. Near fall small package, and then that low blow sequence. You're right. It was like, what the hell am I watching? And it's I kind of like tonight when you had Bayley and Alexa, and we'll get to that, but it's the same idea. It's like, well, the only way to settle this is to do it at Extreme Rules with this stipulation because it was a DQ. Like they've done this. They did this last year, and it's like, can't they pay these writers enough to come up with a better way to book than just to have it booked like that?
That's part of my problem with having these, themed pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber, the Extreme Rules, Hell in a Cell. I mean, you basically tell us months in advance, and you have to try to force the angle to the point to have the match. I'm like, why don't we reverse that? If you're heading to that, that's where you're heading. The pay-per-view doesn't have to be a certain month or a certain time. Let's just have Extreme Rules when we have a match that kind of takes us to there. And hell, make it one match at the top of the card. That's an Extreme Rules. The rest of them don't have to be something. Because here we go, we're looking at, and I know we're going to get there, but we're going to have Kane matches, and we're going to have Extreme Rules matches, this. And so every match on the card has to have, a gimmick to fit the pay-per-view theme. And then
that's just it, though. The main event doesn't have that. The biggest match.
I think it's a Extreme Rules Fatal 5-Way. So there'll be no rules, and there'll be 5 of them in there, and they'll beat the hell out of each other with chairs and canes and ladders and tables and God knows what, because there'll be no rules.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So that's my thing. They're going to pigeon you, but when you pigeonhole every match has to have that type of gimmick. I just don't. It feels forced, like you said, and we'll walk right to it, like Bayley and Alexa. I mean, I'll let you start with there because you brought it up first.
Oh my God! So once again, Alexa comes out and roasts the crowd, roasts the city she's in, which is fine. That's a tried and true way for her to get over as a heel, and she takes the what chance and reverses it on him, and it worked once again. And I don't think it's gonna not work. Like the other, she keep doing that in some fashion. And then you get Bayley coming out, and I don't know if Bayley's as over as she was before, with Alexa being as good as she's been. I think Alexa is going through like Charlotte syndrome. Well, where she's champion and she's so good at being bad, then the crowd, she gets over with the crowd, and then it kind of backfires on them in storytelling. Because Bayley comes out and gives her same shtick that she's done. And I saw a tweet earlier saying, like, whenever Bayley cuts a promo, she sounds like she's out of breath. And obviously she's in really good shape, but that's pretty accurate to me. And, Alexa gets the kendo stick out, and then we have our kendo stick on a pole match from Commissioner Angle, or from GM Kurt Angle, which physically I don't know how that's possible. Like to put the stick on the pole, is it like there's a hole in the pole that it like fits into it, or do they duct tape it to it, or is it swinging from a rope? What? Is that how they do it?
You popped me, and you weren't even trying with what you said.
Why would they do that?
It'll be hanging on a rope or something, and they'll just reach up and grab it, or something. It'll be tied to the pole or something.
I don't know.
It's better than Judy Bagwell on a pole, right?
That's exactly. I tweeted that. I said, "Let's cue the Judy Bagwell jokes." I don't think anyone got it. I think I'm too old. But
yeah, if you're bringing up Judy Bagwell on a pole, yes, you're aging a little bit.
I'm a sucker for the old school stuff. You know how it is.
I do. But like you said, we were talking just a minute ago, because we're heading into Extreme Rules. When Alexa and Bayley are confronting each other to use, you can't get extreme, and you can't. I'm like, really? This is weak.
Yeah, I'm ready to get extreme, Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell does that mean?
Then why didn't their match just like a no disqualification, no rule, extreme rules match? Why did we have to bring in a stick? Oh, because that's the weapon she found conveniently under the ring, so we're going to make it a kendo stick match. Yeah,
hey, the weapon that you just got the shit beat out of you with, guess what? It's going to be the cornerstone of your match. How's that sound?
Yeah, and well, actually, it's weird. I'm going to turn on because of that match. I think we were both frustrated with that a little bit. Although Alexa Bliss is sexy as hell, man. There was something about her whipping her with the kendo stick and then got the belt. I was like, dude, that works. But anyway, speaking of sexy as hell, were you as shocked as I was when Alicia Fox gets the win over Sasha Banks?
No, I wasn't shocked.
Oh, come on. I mean, all prejudice aside, I mean, you'd have to sit there. I know you're partial to Alicia Fox, and I get it. Trust me. But
I am partial to Alicia Fox.
Yeah, but I mean, you really had to be surprised that she picked a win up over Sasha.
I was surprised that she got a win, but if they're going to do 50-50 booking and they're going to build a feud between them, it makes sense to do that. And everybody's bitching online like, oh, Sasha Banks shouldn't get beat cleanly. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? They're trying to tell a story here. They're trying to have a meaningful feud that, like, who's going to get the best this time around. Now they each have a win. Alicia Fox looked really good tonight. I think she may have gotten the better of Sasha in the ring. But, she looked good. That, by the way, that Northern Light suplex and then stands up out of it after the near fall. My God. Beautiful. Beautiful. Effortless. She's great. Alicia Fox is great. And if that's where they're going with Sasha and Alicia Fox, they have chemistry in the ring together. And I don't think anyone really noticed that until a couple of weeks ago when they had that, it was like an 8-woman tag. Is that what that was? Or a 6-woman tag?
Yeah, it was 8. No, it was 8, yeah.
Yeah, it was 8. Because Emma, Dana Brooke, and then Mickie James.
It was Nia. It was like everybody was involved, yeah. Alexa, Alicia Fox. I mean, it was all of them. Pretty much every woman on Raw was in that match. Right. So I think they saw enough between them saying, hey, we could probably make this work. And it works for me, as you know. So I like the booking of it. It's going to build up to something. And it's good to have, Alicia Fox and Sasha working in a feud that doesn't necessarily need a belt because they're both really good in the ring and they have good chemistry. So I'm okay with it. And you can also, if they're also holding off on turning Sasha, well, Alicia can play the heel with the help of Noam Dar too. So that's going to prolong that because, as we all know, Sasha's probably going to turn on Bayley at one of these summer pay-per-views. If it has to draw out to SummerSlam, that's okay because they found a good feud with her and Alicia Fox. Yeah, because that Great Balls of Fire, who knows where we're going with the women, right? So we, I was really floored. I'm not going to lie to you, and I was waiting. We've got our super fan Chris Luth, man. I'm floored. I have not received a message on Twitter yet. He, without fail, I figured would just be boom blowing up Twitter because he's a big, huge Sasha fan, and I was just like, oh God, it's got to be coming any minute now. Because even last week after that shady win, his response was, "Hey, a win's a win. I'll take it," kind of thing. I'm like, of course you will. So maybe that's another one. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it's big enough, but maybe that's an undercard match on Extreme Rules, like it's on the pre-show or something like that.
Yeah, I could work. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I like Alicia's Booker T like axe kick type deal she was doing.
Yeah, they even referenced it, Booker T. They even referenced it. It looked familiar to Booker T. So I thought that was a pretty cool shout out. But I there's a part of me that wondered. I almost wondered if they went home early, because I wonder if her when she did the over the top, I actually wondered if she did get something with her leg, Sasha. I wonder if she banged her leg up when they went home early.
That could have been.
Yeah.
Alicia seems like the type of wrestler, like I'd like to see like a Starship Pain out of her.
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, I mean, I figured you would like that. I was sitting there waiting for the tweets to come once I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, Nathan's got to be grinning ear to ear over there now.
Well, hey, like I said, Emma's injured, so Alicia Fox is taking up my attention with the women's division at this point.
Well, speaking of injured, let's go ahead and address the 300-pound gorilla in the room, right? Braun Strowman, not there.
Oh, God.
Did you miss him?
I missed him, and I think everyone in attendance and watching on the USA Network missed him. It was just it felt like a piece was missing, and that piece was a 6'8", 400-pound guy. And I don't think people thought that it would be that, obvious or that glaring of an absence, and it definitely was. Like, he's been such a, for lack of a better word, a monster figure, and not just in terms of the in-ring, but in terms of, him getting involved with segments with Kurt Angle and stuff with Kalisto, and it was very, very, he was missed. He was missed a lot tonight. I felt like the crowd was kind of waiting for him almost, and they didn't really get it. It was kind of sad.
Yeah, it was very, very glaring that there was something. And like you said, it was just something missing. Couldn't figure out obviously we figured out what it was, but just at the moment, you're just kind of like, I don't know what it is, but man, there's just something. And it's probably that at any moment, something could happen. And it's, the opening segment when they had all 5 of them, involved. You're like, this would be a moment where, Braun Strowman would come down and kick the crap out of all of them. And
no, we got none of that. And the other thing is, this is probably going to push back their program that they were going to work with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So it's clear that Braun Strowman was going to be a big piece of that. So it kind of appears like this Fatal 5-Way for number contendership is kind of a placeholder in terms of what it could have been. I just got to get that feeling because, the only 2 of that Fatal 5-Way that I'd like to see go up against Brock Lesnar, I mean, come on. It's either Roman Reigns or Samoa Joe. For me, those would be the 2 that I want to see. Because those are the only 2 that would make me, suspend my disbelief for in a fight with Brock Lesnar.
No Bray? You're not interested in Bray at all?
I just want to see more wins from Bray before I really get behind him because his character's been destroyed. He's kind of playing this tweener guy where, like, he's teaming up with Samoa Joe to beat down Seth Rollins tonight. And then like, oh no, never mind, he turned on Samoa Joe. He's still kind of a good guy, but he's not really. He's just kind of a tweener. But, Bray Wyatt, I want to see more of him as a insane cult leader. Like, I want to see him manipulating people's minds into following him. Because right now he's got no one. He's got 0 people. He's just himself. And it doesn't work for me. Like, I want to see him warping people into going his way. Like, that's the evil I want to see out of Bray. I don't want to see him going and doing some heel moves and then going bad on the bad guy, because then it's like, well, we're back to where we started. And then Bray always looks great at the end of a match that doesn't mean anything, meaning it's not for a championship, it's not for a number one contendership. He's been booked into the shits so many times, and like what happened tonight it shows me that it's very unlikely that he's going to come out of that match as a winner. So, and as for Rollins and Finn, it's like, you know, Finn is going to get pushed in some capacity because he's massively over and he sells a lot of merch. But I don't know. For me, I want it to be Samoa Joe. If not Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns.
Yeah, my biggest thing, with Finn is I just worry. I know what they may have big, huge plans for him. I just, I know they have control. It's not WCW days where the guys have creative control. I just have a hard time. And he's probably all business, and I'm probably reading it wrong. But I just can't see somebody selling Brock Lesnar on getting beat by Finn Balor.
Exactly. Brock Lesnar has beat up people, a foot taller than Finn for real. And I understand this is all the work, but when you get someone in the ring like Brock Lesnar, who, I want to see someone, at least when you look at them, standing side by side, that it makes you suspend your disbelief. And for me, Finn Balor, as good as he is in the ring, is not someone that does that.
Yeah, and I'm worried that we're going to get pushed into Roman super fast. It's going to be our big, and we'll address those two matches, I guess, since we're kind of touching on that subject. First, we'll address, because I don't want to say spoiled, we kind of already gave away the Seth Rollins Bray Wyatt match. And here's the crazy thing, man. Solid match. They worked a really good match, but like you said, the crowd was kind of dead.
Yeah,
because WWE just hasn't really given us a reason to care.
Well, not only that, but I think the crowd kind of gassed themselves shouting for beach balls and CM Punk during the cruiserweights too. So I think that was their fun. And then afterward, it was time to get as many beers as you could before they shut down the concessions for the night or something. And
before they all sprang home, apparently.
Pretty lame for Wyatt and Seth Rollins, who were two of the best on Raw. And that was a good match. But I think at that point everybody was gassed and they didn't really care anymore. And something else, like, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but it's a long time to be at a Raw for 3 hours and to be that hyped. I mean, we did it, but they gassed themselves out. And doing CM Punk chants and doing Beach Ball Mania or whatever during the cruiserweights, like, whatever.
Yeah, SmackDown 2 hours is a lot easier.
Yeah. And I don't know if they should have had Finn and Roman as the main event, but that match got more. Guess what? That match got more of a reception because it was Finn and Roman Reigns. And those two are right now they're much more over than Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt.
Which, let's kind of go there. Which was another good match by Roman Reigns.
Absolutely.
People are like, oh, he can't wrestle and he sucks. I was like, guys, that shit's over. That dude actually had another really good match with Finn. Now everybody, first it was, it was because AJ carried him. And then it was, this guy carried him. And then, now it'll be, it's because Finn carried him. Okay, there is a common denominator at some point. I thought the match as a whole was pretty good. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out why it was booked the way it ended. I guess somebody's got to win. But I thought with Roman being hurt, this would be the perfect opportunity for Finn to win and Roman having an excuse. They
want to book it 50-50. Like right when Finn came to the ring and said, "I beat you," back on Raw, which we all remember that night, of course, because that was also the night where Stephanie McMahon called Roman Reigns a loser in front of the entire roster on TV, which was clearly punishment for him popping that wellness violation test. But you give Finn a win, and you give Roman a win. Now they each have one. So then it has to go somewhere to have that tiebreaker. And absolutely, Roman put on a great match. Finn put on a great match too, because all Roman Reigns does is put on consistently good work. Night in, night out. He still gets no love, but that's another problem. And Roman can barely talk on the mic because he's getting booed so much. And that's only helping put Finn over even better. Because Finn went, a few weeks ago he was getting concussed by Jinder Mahal. And now he's getting cheered huge against Roman Reigns. So Roman puts him over again. He's putting him over, basically. And that match had really good selling and it had really good work. Balor played the little guy, quote-unquote little guy, really well. Roman sold his rib injury or whatever bandage he was holding on. That worked for me. It was good. It was good stuff.
Let me ask you a question off of the, kind of we're talking about it. With Braun being out 6 months, I mean, I know, because let's be honest with you, when he comes back, I would be, if I was WWE, I'd be more worried he's going to get a huge babyface reaction when he comes back. We always have screamed bloody murder, turn Roman heel. Would this be the time to do it?
Right now?
Absolutely.
I think in a feud with Finn Balor, if that's what they're going to do for the next few weeks up until Extreme Rules, it's already been done. Because the WWE is not going to gain anything from turning Roman heel. If they make Roman be a dick to the crowd and do all that, it's not going to sell more merchandise. It's not going to get better ratings. He's already getting a heel reaction. So Vince doesn't really have to do that. I mean, he can still say things like, this is my yard. You don't have the killer instinct, which is kind of walking that line between the good guy, bad guy. But that's what they've done with him for the past, couple of years. Well, maybe not a couple of years, but I don't think they need to do it at this point because it's already been done. And even to your point, when Braun comes back, by the way, 6 months for Braun Strowman, that's brutal.
Yeah.
And in 2017 wrestling time, that's like, you might as well be out 3 years. Because we forget about everything that happens within 2 weeks. But,
yeah, because we're talking November. We're talking Survivor.
God. Yeah, it's rough. And he was so big too. He still is, but my God, he was red hot. But I don't think they need to turn Roman heel because he's already getting that reaction. And if he still plays that tweener kind of, is he good, is he bad? He's still going to get the reaction. He's still going to get that kind of, it's not really a split reaction, but especially when he's going against a massive babyface like Finn Balor, they're already getting what they need from him. So I don't think they are going to gain anything. They might lose, some of the merch sales by making them bad guys and the kids don't like him anymore. So I don't see it happening.
So that gives us, we covered both of the main events. Now I will go ahead and get this one out of the way because I want to end on a high note, man. And I got 2 high notes in my opinion. But the other one I want to get out of the way is Hardy and Sheamus. Jeff Hardy and Sheamus have a one-on-one. Because isn't that what we just did to get to the last pay-per-view? We did some singles matches to get there.
Like I said, nothing promotes tag team wrestling better than singles wrestling.
So I'm guessing next week we're going to get Cesaro versus Matt. Because didn't we had the reverse of this going into the last pay-per-view? Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, and I don't understand that either. I don't understand that match. If you're trying to build a feud and build Sheamus and Cesaro as heels, why would you have them lose with no sort of attack them after the match type thing?
Yeah.
Why not protect the heels? Get heat on them. They don't really have it right now. They attacked the Hardys back at was it Payback?
Mm-hmm.
Was that okay? So attacked them, knocked out Brother Nero's tooth and all that. But then tonight they didn't do anything with that. They had Sheamus get pinned. There was really no sort of cheating by Cesaro or cheating by Sheamus to try and get heat. Like it took heat off of them, if anything. Why do it like that? If you're trying to build up a feud, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. This is the fight that we want to see. This is the conflict. You want to protect the heels. And they didn't do that. And the match was kind of sloppy as well. You know, there was a brutal knee to the face from Sheamus to Jeff Hardy. My God. And then like a weird, he caught him. Sheamus took it to the top rope and then he kind of caught him into a stunner type thing. And they said it was a modified twist of fate, I guess. And then a weird brogue kick on Matt Hardy, who was standing on the apron, and it was a weird match and with a weird ending. And I don't know why to do that if you're trying to build a conflict up to a damn pay-per-view. Have the bad guys win by cheating, or have the good guys win and then get beat down by the bad guys because they're better. Because it was like closure tonight almost. And I granted it's a singles match, but I just want more of a conflict out of it.
But that's just not how it was meant to be, I guess, tonight. But yeah, I mean, I think this is an opportunity at Extreme Rules. If we ever get the violence that breaks the Hardys, Extreme Rules is probably the place for it to happen.
I'd say I agree with that.
I mean, we're going to get, ladders, chairs, tables, baseball bats for crying out loud. Who knows what they're going to break out. And I think that would be the good opportunity to kind of, break the Hardys and get the whole broken Matt Hardy, Brother Nero gimmicks. Hopefully all the legal stuff's been, wrapped up by then. I'm not real sure. But now I'm going to roll into a couple things that you're going to be shocked that I thought were some of the high points of Raw for me. First and foremost, the Cruiserweight tag match. I don't know why I'm on board with Dick heel TJP. Yeah,
TJP's coming around on me too, and I never thought I'd say that to a guy who wears hair product to the ring, which is a heel move in and of itself. But I like TJP as a bad guy. I like Neville as the bad guy, sort of manipulating TJP. I love that. That's kind of like Triple H, almost, and it works for me. And I still watch 205, and you combine that with the good work that Aries is doing in Gallagher, it works for me too. So I was a fan of it. The crowd shat on the match, which whatever, but I thought that was real good.
And that's what's disappointing is the crowd crapping on the match, and it was to me one of the higher points of the night. The work rate's good. Like you said, I mean, little things as silly as it was, like they were tagging, and this is just me being nitpicky at this point. I thought this was beautiful. Neville throws out, the opponent, and he distracts the referee. He's acting like his mouth is hurting. He's grabbing at his face. The referee's turning and looking at him, and TJP's jumping on him outside the ring. And then just little heel stuff like that. And then, of course, the grabbing the leg, the distraction, playing the heel. I mean, Neville is doing heel work, which is like he's one of the few who's doing what heels do. And then, Gallagher's the ultimate babyface, to be honest with you. Surprised Aries is just over. That's probably why they just brought him as a babyface. So, and then, of course, the dab alone, just total dick move. That's what I think of Cam Newton, and that's why I think of heel whenever I see it. And so every time he does it, I'm like, he's a heel. TJP's a heel. I mean, and they're doing a great job with those two as that team. And then on top of that, like I said, the match was good.
Yeah, it works for me. It's good storytelling. It's good work. The spots mean something too. It's not just flips and whatever. Everything means something in the booking, and they're actually starting to book the cruiserweights properly. Granted, some people would say it's not what they want to see because WWE style cruiserweights, but it works for me, and I want to see more of it. And Neville is fantastic as the champion too.
Yeah,
Like he's great.
The cruiserweights are becoming more Randy Orton approved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they may have done too many dives for Randy Orton's taste, but he was drunk in Denmark at 1:30 in the morning, so who only knows the substances that were in his veins, as they say.
Yeah, that go ahead and address it, man, because I know we don't normally talk about that kind of stuff, but I just thought it was hilarious. He took that whole shot at Bubba, and that whole thing was just, to me, it was just nuts.
Oh my God! So Randy Orton tweeted out that he basically shot back at people saying that he's doing a boring. His title feud is boring. His match work is boring. He's not a sympathetic character. We don't care. The RKO is the diamond cutter, and it always will be the diamond cutter. But he basically took a shot at wrestling fans, indie wrestling fans, indie wrestlers, and what he called old timers, which was clearly meant to throw shade, as they say, at Bubba Ray Dudley. Which, number one, that's the first thing that would piss off the legend right there, is going after the Dudley boys. But he played it off as, I'm having a good time here. SmackDown's beating Raw. It doesn't equate to a room full of 150 people paying $10 at some, church basement or whatever he said. And, basically said, here in the big boy world, we put asses in seats. Go ahead and have your 20 super kicks per match. So he went after the Young Bucks too, which, and honestly, that one heel tweet that he put out where he shat on a lot of people, more entertaining than probably his entire his current championship run. So I kind of liked it. I mean, I didn't like it, but I liked it.
You didn't think it was true, maybe, but you actually thought it was pretty funny? I
think there's some truth to it. Orton has been very good for a long time, but he's never really been. I think this kind of attitude from him is one of the things that's really held him back from being, quote unquote, the guy. It's the, Myron says Randy Orton is the least sympathetic wrestler I've ever seen. And he's right. No one can get behind Randy Orton. He's a tall, good-looking, athletic guy with bloodlines in the business who wrestles like a heel. We had talked about it, I think it may have been last week, when he faced Eric Rowan, and he's beating him with weapons, and this is supposed to be your good guy. And he's got a menacing look on his face, and it's like, well, no, nothing's really getting done here. You're just beating up a guy that is supposed to be the bad guy. But anywho, it's, Orton's going to do his thing, and he went after Bubba Ray Dudley, which I really don't like, but what are you going to do? Orton's Orton. He's like the entitled rich kid in high school. So he's going to get what he has coming to him, good or bad. Most of it's good. And the biggest issue I have with it is because that tweet that he had went so viral, now it's going to maybe take heat off of Jinder Mahal, because a lot of the WWE fans also like indie wrestling. There's a lot of good wrestling out there in the indies, whether it's, Ring of Honor or whatever it is. I don't know.
We're sitting here. We're
a lot of people, but
we're plugging, Rocky Mountain Pro, Rockstar Pro, all the stuff on the Fight app, man. There's plenty of good indie wrestling out there. I mean, it's just, you got to look for it. And guess what? You're also going to find you're going to find some crap out there. These, guys who throw up, we've discussed it ad nauseum before about there's shady promoters out there who run, crappy shows, and they just do them, they're like one and dones, I like to call them. They like to run, they move show to show, and, but then you're going to have some good guys. I mean, some guys that run regular shows at regular places, and, they try to put out a good product consistently. And like I said, I mean, even, everybody's like, oh, well, Rocky Mountain Pro, Rocky Mountain. There's a reason we partnered with Rocky Mountain Pro. We like what they do. And, so that's, some good stuff that you can find out there. But just to him taking the shots at the Indies as a whole, like you said, the only problem that I found myself, there was some truth in it. I mean, I'm the first guy that screams, I don't know if you saw John Morrison, was it a week or two ago, that took that terrible fall probably in front of, a couple hundred people. Damn near looked like he broke his neck or something. He completely just, it was a crash and burn. And I'm like, that move's just not necessary. And no offense to the 200 people that paid their money, but it's not that important to pull that move off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. What X-Pac says is X-Pac says, when I wrestle these shows, X-Pac knows he's got the greatest hits, and that's what they're going to get. And it's nothing crazy. He's like, there's a kick, there's a Bronco Buster involved. There's a couple things, and that's it, baby. He goes, other than that, it's kicks, punches, and, the greatest hits, and boom, we're going home. And that's what I wish more of them could get to. Where, and then everybody says, oh, it's boring. No, it's called saving yourself for a big show. When the big show comes, absolutely. And I don't mean Paul White when the big show comes. I mean, when the big show for your promotion comes, yeah, you go a little bit extra, but Jesus, I mean, in front of 50 people and I'm not saying, the bingo hall or whatever, just wherever, the rec center, for crying out loud, don't do something stupid that's going to shorten your career.
I think these indie guys have to do that to try and get over, because a lot of them are unknown and they're trying to increase their audience. And that's one of the ways to do it. That's one of the ways you get people talking, is by doing crazy spot after crazy spot after crazy spot. And, like Randy Orton's never really had to deal with that. He's never really had to over, because he came in as, Cowboy Bob Orton's kid.
Yeah,
so, okay,
I mean,
I want to see this immediately.
He's a OVW, WWE product. I mean, he's homegrown, and he's their guy. He's been there since he was 19 years old.
Yeah, and he's been a troublemaker since he was that age too. And granted, I probably would have been too, but kicked out of the military. He's had his issue. I'm not going to go into all of his issues, but I don't know. I don't know if it was heel stuff from him, or if it was shoot heel stuff from him, but it's enough fans that watch WWE are big indie fans that it's going to rub them the wrong way. So I'm not sure if Ginger's going to go over to him for this, or what's going to go on with that, but I have no idea. It's good. It's good. It's good Twitter, though. I will say it's good Twitter.
Yeah, it was a good Twitter feed, and then we might find out tomorrow how bad, what the reaction is. I mean, it's SmackDown.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to bury him for it, but they may do something. Who knows?
You never know. God only knows the internet wrestling community, right? How nuts it can be.
Oh, yeah. It's a good old IWC.
Absolutely. Well, let's move. We're going to move to two people that have a history of not being, troublemakers and, rubbing people the wrong way. I want to first talk about the Goldust attack on R-Truth. They had that little segment earlier in the show where, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. We lost, As soon as that segment happened, I looked at my wife and said, Goldust is about to turn on this guy. I was like, he just was too adamant about how it was not a big deal. After last week, it was a huge deal that they win and how important that match was. And I will tell you this, 2 weeks ago, we had Bob on, Bobby Matthews from ProWrestlingStories.com, and we talked about Goldust maybe having one more run, in him. And we're not kidding ourselves. We're not talking world title or anything like that. We were thinking Intercontinental, U.S. if he got moved over to SmackDown, something like that. Maybe even he gets a new tag partner and he gets a tag team run or something like that. We were like, so as soon as it came up, I actually tweeted him and said, hey, maybe this is the run we were talking about.
You hit it right on the head. As soon as they did that stupid segment, it gave it away to the fans, and it gave it away to everybody. And that's the Hollywood writers trying to write it like an episode of TV. And that's why the crowd was out of it for that when it happened. because they're showing all their cards and then they're having the segment, and it didn't really catch anyone off guard. It's laziness.
What I was thinking is, why didn't we just have them come out? He attacks them, and then guess what? Next he explains himself.
Yeah, nobody cared in the arena. I really like Goldust. I grew up watching him. I grew up watching Truth, of course, too. But this is going to sound maybe silly, but the younger fans will they'll never experience growing up watching a guy like Goldust when you're a kid. Because I remember watching Goldust when I was like 6 years old, and I said, "What the hell is this guy? Is this a guy? I don't understand." Like, I was at a developing age where I had no clue what the hell Goldust was, but he was entertaining, and he put on great matches. I don't know. It'd be nice to see. I don't know what they're going to do from this. Clearly, he's not going to take on Brock Lesnar or anything like that, but I have no idea. I don't like the way that they foreshadowed it to happen. Like, they booked the Festival of Friendship back with Kevin Owens and Jericho so perfectly that you knew it was going to happen, but you didn't know when. With this, it was like, hey, this is going to happen later in the show, so you might want to stay tuned. And it's just laziness.
Well, even booking the Festival of Friendship, we kind of thought that's probably what was going to happen, but it was done so well.
Yeah,
and
true.
The larger issue of it all was we cared so much more about Jericho and Owens than we did. So I think we needed the shock value of Goldust just blindly turning on R-Truth. I think there's more impact to it if we didn't, see it basically advertised it coming later,
Right.
So, and the other thing I wanted to talk about possibly stole the show for me. Titus O'Neil popped me big time tonight. Mocking Enzo and Cass and getting in the ring, even the match, the whole everything popped me.
Yeah. And that's the only city they could have cut a heel promo on Enzo and Cass and made it work was New Jersey. So they did that right. They did that right. And Titus, taking their entrance cadence, I can't believe that hasn't been done before in that capacity. Maybe it has, but it worked for me. And then Apollo had that drop kick on Enzo at the end, which, if you noticed, Cass didn't really look too upset about that either. Maybe it was just me, but Cass didn't look too distraught over the fact that Enzo just got kicked in the face.
It was almost
by the way, every single segment that they have ends with Enzo getting kicked in the face or something. God, that guy, he gets beat up.
Well, but that's the role. He's the little friend who does. And the funny part was, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but there's almost as a part of Big Cass you wanted to be like, he sit there and go, you got what you deserve. You're being an ass. Because that was like the great thing about that whole segment, even at the end. First of all, the great thing was just Titus, period. Like you said, the mocking the cadence and the whole, you can't teach that, and that whole thing. He even was out Enzoing Enzo with the little, squirt, the little shake of his shoulders, the little dance. And I was like, dude, that was perfect. I mean, I popped. I was laughing, couldn't stop. My wife thought it wasn't funny in the least, didn't understand it, didn't care. But I was sitting there popped. I was like, this is awesome. But
it was tremendous.
Yeah. And then at the end, I thought they did a really nice job with Apollo Crews, where it was kind of like, because you could see in the beginning when, when Titus was doing it, he's kind of pleading with him like, man, don't do this. I mean, this is their thing, man. Come on, this isn't cool. But then at the end, Enzo's kind of he's pulling the little, a little bit of a dick move, trying to do the selfie, while he's down or whatever. And Apollo Crews is kind of like, okay, this isn't cool either, and I'm not going to let this go down.
Yeah.
So you still kind of waffle. The idea is Apollo, like, he's like, he really didn't do a heel thing. he was just kind of standing up for his boy at that point.
Yeah, Enzo had it coming because they don't want to make. I don't know if it was to heel Apollo because it didn't really seem that way, but it was a good spot. I like the drop kick. I don't know what they're going to do with that with Titus and Apollo. I want to see more of them though after tonight. I will say that.
Yeah, I think
they got to do something with the Revival on the shelf.
I think they're the next heel team.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Albeit even temporary. They're a heel team, and the beauty of it is both of them can be baby faces. Down the road, you can turn them baby because Apollo's the baby, and then Titus is such a likable, marketable guy down the road. You could turn him baby too. So I think that works. And
they broke up Golden Truth tonight, so
right.
Why not Titus and Apollo tag? I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's your tag. I think that is your tag to fill that little void there. But overall, like I said, the card was just weird. It was just overall the show was just a funky show. But it did obviously have some high points as we sat there and kind of weaved our way through the show. There was lots of things we liked. It was just the glaring Braun, I think, gap of him not being there. They're going to have to bring somebody in, I think. Somehow, some way, somebody's going to have to either get called up or moved or a free agent of some kind or something where somebody's going to have to move. So what's your take on that?
I don't know who they could bring in. Who's the big guy that is in a reasonable physical stature to fill that role? That, a 400-pound guy was in. It's not going to be a Big Show.
Well, now I'm not talking necessarily physically the stature. I just mean is it time? Is it time to bring up Bobby Roode to be another heel on Raw?
It might be. His NXT championship run hasn't been what I thought it would be. And it would work. He's massively over. So maybe that is the move to make.
Because there's really not another heel down there that you think's ready to move up in that, in that higher profile spot, I would think.
No, not other than Rude. I can't see, Cien Almas isn't there yet. So he'd probably be the only one to do it.
And with Cole coming in, he could play the heel coming into to NXT to kind of fill that void. Oh
yeah, absolutely, and he could almost take a spot too if Tommy goes over at NXT Takeover coming up this weekend actually. So yeah, that might make sense. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Strowman going out because you just had, like I said, one of your key pieces of not only your 3-hour-long show, but also your Universal Championship picture, who's now out for up to six months. So it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be the shits for a little bit, but they'll think of something.
And the craziest part is they just had to go through this exact same issue. Finn Balor wins the title, and he's out for 8 months. And
maybe that's why they're keeping Brock Lesnar off TV, so he doesn't get injured. Maybe that championship's cursed.
Anybody that's heading in that road or who's going to win it or anything. Now Kevin Owens, he walked it and never got hurt and, never got injured. And so there's always that. Maybe they should have just left him alone over there as the Universal Champion, right?
That's true. Yeah, Owens did not get hurt, which is obviously I don't want Owens hurt. I don't want anyone hurt. But I don't know. Rollins was involved with it. He got injured. Finn got injured. Now Braun's injured. So I hope no one else gets injured, especially Roman Reigns, because I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do. We have this. By the way, that Intercontinental Championship. Do you remember last week? And they had that massive main event to build up to who's going to be the number one contender, and it was Miz.
Yeah.
Now it's like all those same guys are now. It's like, okay, well, now you can feud for who's going to get a shot at this championship.
Yep.
So they're just moving the same guys from belt feud to belt feud.
So it's almost a funny thing.
Story behind it.
The funniest part of it is that then you would think that Miz might look at it now and go, well, shit, I wish I would have lost.
Exactly. That's
then
exactly
I'd be fighting
right.
for the Universal title.
Right, and didn't even win it. He lost out of a stupid bullshit DQ finish from the wrong guy. So all the progress that they made last week with that awesome main event, it's like, okay, well, now this is the result, and now they can go feud for this. It's like there's no continuity. It's like each week is like its own episode now. It's like watching Seinfeld. It's like you can pick it up whenever, and maybe that's what they want at this point because they're just trying to get ratings on the TV, let's be honest. But it sucks because that's the biggest knock and the biggest thing that everybody bitches about, including myself, is that the in-ring work is as good as it's ever been. I think most people would probably agree with that. But you don't have the emotional investment. You don't have the storylines because they write each of these 3-hour shows like it's its own like episode of a sitcom that you can just pick up and watch. It's like the Big Bang Theory. And it's the shits because then you don't have anything building up to blow off at a huge pay-per-view. You just say, hey, if you want to see more of this, guess what? You can head over to WWEnetwork.com and get your free, and then that's another issue. But, yeah, you hit it on the head. I don't know what else to say. Like last week you had a feud and you had a match. That meant something. And this week that match ended and it proved that it didn't mean anything. So then it just is going to keep on rolling. They're going to keep on printing money, but it's the shits.
Yeah, I didn't mind. It's weird. I didn't necessarily mind the DQ finish, in the Intercontinental match. I thought it was executed poorly. But my thing of it was, like you said, the part that kind of baffles me is, like you said, the other guys all went on to basically to fight for the Universal title. In theory, the bigger of the two titles. So Miz feels like, shit, I should have lost and I'd have been fighting for the Universal title now versus tied up in the Intercontinental title. Now, granted, he's playing the angle. That's the belt he wants. That's the title for him or whatever. But still, it doesn't make sense that that's the route they were going. But I'm going to quit beating that. I'm going to leave that one alone. And man, we've run through the card. We went through the entire card of Raw. We covered everything on the thing. I know you are much better at taking notes. Do you got anything else, that I missed that we didn't cover?
The Drifter interrupting Angle, Miz, and Maurice while Kurt Angle was speaking French. So we got a Drifter sighting tonight.
It seems like we're getting one every week now, but at some point the guy's got to wrestle, right?
I think he's going to do it during a match. Probably at a pay-per-view. They're going to do it, and they're not going to put him on camera. I think they did that once before on Raw, or maybe it was on a pay-per-view. They had him walk through the crowd, in the background, but they didn't really acknowledge it. But of course, everybody's going to with camera phones. That's how they do it. So I think they're going to keep hinting at that. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I like his shtick. I think. For some reason, maybe it's because I played in bands before, but the thought of when he was in NXT, when he's playing his guitar and just getting booed and bombing, it's really funny to me. So, I want to see more of the Drifter. Let's try to think of anything else. The other thing I got is Finn and Finn and Roman Reigns was my favorite match of the night. It was a weird night with some weird decisions made by the creative team, but what are you going to do?
If nothing else, they gave you a win. They gave you a clear, defined winner. It was a good, solid match, and we got a 1-2-3.
We did.
So
we did.
I can't really argue.
2 DQ finishes tonight, but that was a solid match.
Yeah. But the funny part is that they were 2 DQ finishes, but they were 2 different DQ finish. One's the low blow and one's the outside interference with Samoa Joe, and it's same thing. My wife laughed because I called that one a mile away because I'm like, well, okay, we got 4 of the wrestlers goes, 5th one's not involved. He didn't get involved in the first match. He's got to be involved in the last.
Yeah. Don't you think it's kind of, maybe not sad, that's not the word, but don't you think it's kind of telling that we can kind of predict how these are going to go?
I've come to grips with this a long time ago. Wrestling, watching wrestling now for, I always say 40 years. I mean, but if you realistically, it's probably, as far as 36, 37 years. We just had another interview that we recorded with Bobby Matthews, and it's funny at the end of the part of the episode that has not aired yet, I dropped it in 2 parts because we talked for 2 hours. One of the things he brought up is that, being an older guy, watching wrestling, it's like everything that is old is new again. They reuse and rehash ideas constantly. They put little twists on them and things like that. But predictable is not always bad. That's one of my, big things about wrestling when people like it's so predictable. If it's executed well, it's still okay. Because, you think about any TV show, any movie, book, or anything that you read or watch or whatever, most things, in most cases, it's kind of predictable. You can kind of see it coming in most cases. There's obviously the shows that are shocking and, they got the swerve, if you want to call it that. But most things you can kind of predict. But if it's executed well, it's still okay. And wrestling is a big example of that. So if it's done correctly, I can live with it. It's just when it's predictable and then executed poorly, that's when I have a bigger problem with it.
Yeah, and tonight a lot of it was not executed well. So
right.
Not only did we see it coming, but it wasn't good when we got it.
100% agree. So what else you got, man? Is that it?
Champions coming out first again tonight. I bitch about this almost every week. You had the Hardys come out, or you had Broken Matt and Brother Nero come out.
Yep.
Alicia Fox with no entrance, but she got the win.
Yeah, that one I was actually going to try. That was in my notes, and I completely forgot it. Absolutely, that baffled me. That's kind of why I was shocked that she won. And then we got the. I know it was a tag match, but Neville came out first.
Yep.
So, and yeah, it happens. I guess. What are we gonna do? I just think it's just Vince. I just think it's WWE way at this point. I don't think it just matters. I think, as a matter of fact, I think I heard Pritchard say that he just doesn't think it matters that much.
It's like Randy Savage said when he gave his Cream of the Crop promo. Nothing means nothing.
Yeah. So. Anyway, so with that, we're going to wrap up the Raw recap, unless you've got something else that I'm missing. I know you like to throw in favorite, least favorite, so go ahead and throw me yours. I know you said your favorite match.
Yeah, favorite was Finn, Roman Reigns. Least favorite, it's probably the Intercontinental Championship. The ending, honestly, it soured me. So
I've got the card in front of me. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't forget. I will 100% agree with the finish, and I'll be real specific. The finish of the Intercontinental title match was my least. And then the funny, I popped so hard. It's just to rile up the crowd. I guess I'll say favorite moment of the night, man, was freaking Titus popped me big time during that whole intro thing. That was probably, and it's because it's something different, man. If nothing else, I think the Braun injury may put them in a state of what SmackDown does. It just got to make some new stars.
You mean they're actually going to have to try to get people over?
Yeah, they're going to have. Let's think about it. Tonight alone, Goldust with a turn. Titus O'Neil had the skit that kind of got the pop out of me anyway. I don't know if I'm the only one. If you're on Twitter @TappedOutPod, shoot it to me and tell me if you agree or disagree, because I thought it was pretty funny. And maybe Bray is going to get this push. Maybe this is his time with Braun gone. Maybe that, this is Bray's moment. Because, I don't know if you heard, there was supposedly some big powwow about what they were going to do with the Universal title now with everything that's gone on. They knew, because at that point, I think they only thought Braun was going to be gone like 6 to 8 weeks. Well, shit, now it's 6 months. So clearly, there's going to be, that meeting had to have some kind of plans where they were going to change. And maybe this is Bray's moment.
I'd be okay with that, but I want them to build him well, because they've run him into the ground completely for the last several months since he won the championship at Elimination Chamber and since he dropped it. So,
right,
I'm okay with it, but I want them to build it the right way.
Yeah, I don't know that I want them building him up for a month and then they feed him to Brock Lesnar and he's destroyed.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it goes right back to what you said earlier, where he wins, but when it matters, he doesn't.
Right. And all of his hocus pocus, smoke and mirrors, he can teleport. It means nothing when he gets beat again.
100% agree. So with that, man, we're going to wrap up. But before we go, one more time, I'm going to plug out the Fight App contest. Remember, it's and I'm going to give you all the ways you can reach us. But with the contest, it's a couple specific ways. First of all, it's $25 credit on the Fight App. You remember, you have to have the link. Use our link on Twitter, Facebook, or on our website. It's on all three. I'll make sure that I put them all up there again and kind of keep them in the feed pretty regularly so you can find it. Download the app. That's the first and foremost. Remember the email that you use to register your account, because you do have to register the account. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free. That's first and foremost. It's free. Once you have the app, that'll kind of give us everything we know for you to win, except for the one key part. The question that we asked was, on Friday's episode, we had an interview with owner of Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, Matthew Yaden. And the trivia question is, what is the difference in the countouts in Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling? Now, the ways you're going to be able to get me that, I want these two specific ways. You can always email us at tappedoutwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. That is tappedoutwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can send it to Twitter at tappedoutpod. That is at tappedoutpod. DM me, please. It's not a tweet. Don't tweet it out, because then, of course, everybody will see it. But you want to make sure you DM us at tappedoutpod. First correct answer that we get, we will contact you back, set it all up, and we will get those credits put into your Fight App account. Now, off of that, we were going to say, don't forget, we'll be here tomorrow night at 657-383-0091 with the live SmackDown recap show, which will air at 11 o'clock. That's 30 minutes earlier than this show, because SmackDown ends an hour beforehand, so we've got plenty of time to get ready. So, again, you can call tomorrow night at 657-383-0091. We should have the winner tomorrow. Obviously, on the show, we'll announce the winner of the contest, on the Fight App contest. And then, of course, guys, we always say, if you cannot for some reason call in, but you want to send in a question, tappedoutwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com is the place you can send that as well. Then, of course, you can reach us at Twitter at tappedoutpod. If you want to get a hold of the legend, how do they find you on Twitter, man?
Ooh, they can find the legend at Littman316. It's like Hitman with an L. Legends never die.
So that is Littman316. And then, of course, tomorrow night, Myron will be sitting in with Nathan for the SmackDown recap. I already know this, so it's always good to know that ahead of time. But I will be on long enough. I'll announce the winner tomorrow night when we do that show. And then I'll probably be screening calls, because that's what I like to do on nights when I'm not on the show. And then, of course, guys, you can always find us on Facebook, and that is just at Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us there. You can find us on our website at tappedoutwrestlingpodcast.com, tappedoutwrestlingpodcast.com. The reason why we suggest you go there, down the left, we have the links to iTunes, Google Play, the media players in the middle. In case you have not noticed, we did move servers. So the reason why that's important is because the media player down the middle looks different now. It's back to the old way. Everybody seemed to like that when you can directly download straight from every single episode. There's no more click to go to another page to find the old archives. They're all right down the middle. You just scroll right down that middle. You can find all 100, and I think this is episode number 20. This will be episode 120 tonight. So every episode will be there. You can download those all the way through the archives. And then, of course, like I said, iTunes, Google Play, all that good stuff is there. We're back on the YouTube feed will be regular. So if you find, YouTube, you can just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. We'll be there as well. Then, of course, to the right, the link to the Fight app is there, which, we were just addressing. So the Fight app is there as well. You can download the app on the website as well. And then, of course, our Amazon affiliate link is there as well. You want to click on that because what we ask you, if you want to help support the show, and everybody's like, well, how do we help support the show? Well, it's free, man. So what we tell you to do is just go through our link on Amazon, click on it, replace that old Amazon.com link that's on your browser on your computer, replace it with our link, and just use that link from that day forward, going on making your regular Amazon purchases. We're not asking you to buy anything extra. We're not asking you to pay anything more. Just use that link, and Amazon will kick a little bit of commissions our way and help support us. They'll kick us that little bit of commissions to help cover some of the overhead that we have. And that's pretty much all that we're asking. And then, what? Since then, guys, guess what? ProWrestlingTees.com, the first and the original Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network T-shirt is up. It is for sale on there. More to come, obviously. We're working on some new designs to get them up. I know, Nathan, man, I know your cool ideas in your head that you're thinking about on shirts, right?
I have some things that I'm kicking around in my brain, so stay tuned.
Absolutely. So you definitely want to, and remember, all the cool shows on the network, at some point we'll start having the shirts designed. So it's coming soon, the Gorilla Press with the Wrestling Dorks. We're obviously with us on the main shows here. Then we're going to have, God, I don't know if you guys know, we've got the DDT archive starting in, now it's less than 2 weeks away. They'll be starting up with the retro show in a couple of weeks. So we've got the new NXT Ring of Honor recap show coming. A couple weeks after that, we have our Impact show coming. We've got all the interview shows. I mean, dude, it's starting to load up quick. So all those shirts will be available soon on the ProWrestlingTees.com store. And it's simply just go on ProWrestlingTees.com and search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Like I said, the original tees there now. And as the shirts grow, you can just start buying them, and it's all shipped straight to you from those guys. Great service. Definitely want to check it out. Believe it or not, I've used it in the past to buy some. I think you've used it before, haven't you, Nathan?
Absolutely.
I thought so. So definitely want to check that out. So, man, I think I've covered everything. Always correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, but I always want to tell you, too, Periscope, Sundays. Nathan.
Sunday night, 8:30 Central Time. Legend live on Periscope at Littman316.
Definitely. We'll try to do our best. We'll keep that all tweeted out for you. So then they can be all interactive. You can be interactive with the Legend. That's 8:30 Central on Sundays on Periscope. You can find it, the links on Twitter at Tapped Out Pod and, of course, at Littman316 as well. Got a bunch of cool new things coming down the pipe, so you definitely want to check out. Also, make sure later in the week that you're checking out the interview shows, because next week we'll be giving another $25 credit away on the Fight app, and the answer to the trivia question will be on the episode later this week. I'm actually already booked up to, believe it or not, man, I've got 2 interviews lined up this week, so I'm super psyched. I haven't decided which one's dropping on Friday and which one's going to have the trivia question in it. I got a pretty good idea. But, let's put it this way. We are interviewing a champion tomorrow, so I would go out on a limb and say that's the show that's going to be dropping on Friday with the trivia question in it. So that's a little bit of a teaser. What champion are we going to be interviewing tomorrow and who will be on? More to come later this week. You'll find out. So, Legend, you got anything else, man?
No, I'm good to go, Nick.
All right, man. Well, I will see you tomorrow night as well as hopefully everybody else. But I guess if it's time to go, what does that mean it's time to do, man?
It's time to tap out.
It's Memorial Day. It's time to get out of town and get on the water. This summer, gear up for the fish, the food, and the family. Cabela's Memorial Day sale. Family events, amazing deals. Your one stop before the campfire. Save $200 on Champion Patriot generators, $100 on select kayaks, and get Cabela's Adult and Youth Deluxe Flotation vests for just $9.99. Plus, come in and celebrate our Hometown Heroes event. See store for details. Shop in-store and online at Cabela's.com.